features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, there's been a break in the clouds. We are looking forward to seeing some sunshine today, hopefully with dappled cats and massive lions. This is Safari Live. Ready?
Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Well, we are very looking forward to seeing some sunshine this morning. I'm going to head out and see if we can find the royal family. I know Jamie's on her way to the hyena den. If no luck, we'll look for those lions that were making a lot of noise last night. Now, you might see that there's a dead animal on my bonnet today. There it is, look at it, it's so fluffy. And I did warn that we were going to be doing a bit of VR. It's a new VR setup. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have the incredibly talented VM on camera with me today, and I'm very excited to find some animals. Of course, hashtag Safari Live, questions at WildEarthTV if you want to get hold of us. And there's been a bit of a joke around camp this morning. If you notice, on top of this VR rig, there's a new thing that is sticking out the top. And we're trying to figure out how long it's going to take me to take that off the top. So you're all been welcome. I say it's going to take 4 drives, Vim. 2 drives. And we've got Josh, who's from Biome, who the guys who are doing the VR. How long do you think it's going to take me?
1 drive.
1 drive. So we'll see if it lasts, and you'll notice that it's called Weddle. Now, they name all their different kit after seals. Of course, they don't have lions and leopards in England, otherwise they would be naming it after something far more interesting than a seal. But anyway, each to their own. Okay. So it's still going to be quite difficult to see tracks, and ground's still really compacted, but on a nice clear morning like this, the sound is going to travel. There's almost not a breath of wind, so very excited, even if we don't see any cats, just to see a bit of sunshine. Definitely one of the longest extended periods of cloud cover and rain we've had in the 2 years or so that I've been here. There are going to be some very happy antelope species who are going to be ready to warm up after a very cold and wet couple of days. And it didn't look like any more baby impala succumbed during the night, and so it looks like the guys that weren't doing too well, a bit sickly, have survived, or have not survived, and the rest have survived. Okay, well, let's go down to the south, to the area where I think Karula is most likely to pop back into the north. While we do that, let's say good morning to Jamie.
Look at our special surprise. Isn't that amazing? I literally just saw them 2 seconds before Lou sent you across to us. Hi, babies. That is so cool. Good morning, my name is Jamie, and this morning Brian is on camera with me. Brian, how nice is it to see new babies?
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, this is such a special thing. Hello. Hello, you clever girl. I'm just keeping a little bit of distance for now. I don't want them to go racing back into the den. Look at you. Look at you. Oh, sorry. I'll try and refocus myself in a moment, but my goodness gracious. It has been so long since I saw a little hyena of this age, when they're still black and don't have spots. Oh, I'm so chuffed. Hi, guys. Yes, is that your mummy's ear? Oh, this is so exciting for our new viewers. I cannot wait for you to spend a bit more time with these hyena cubs. It is such a joy, and as they get older, they get braver and braver, and then they come up to say hello to us. And then we have to have eyes in the back of our heads, and so does the camera operator, because otherwise they chew your tires. Yes, I'm looking at you, Mischief. Mounting Mom, climbing up onto her back. Oh, so chuffed. Finally. Oh, Brian? It paid off. All the talking about there being a hyena den and the fact that we were desperate to see them. Yay! That is so lovely. Sorry, I completely lost my train of thought. I was just listening to Brent call it in. Hi! Look at your ears! One day you're going to have to grow into those ears. Oh! Look at those little bellies. Now, Miss Sky, you say, is this Gwen? Miss Sky, no, I don't think so. It's not at all. I don't think so. I know it's not Gwen. This is another hyena. If you have a look at this one's ears, Gwen has got particularly tattered ears. She's pockmarked with scars all over her face. This is quite a pristine hyena. Is this I assume is ribbon. I'm not 100% sure. It's a little bit tricky for me to tell in the dark without any comparisons, and having not seen a proper hyena sighting in over 9 months, apart from Gwen. And I'm pretty sure this is ribbon. But I'm so happy. It's definitely not Corky, and it's definitely not Madam. Oh, oh, what's up? What's up? You can see she's alert. The lovely thing as well about a hyena den is that, of course, all of the rest of the clan will come and visit. It's kind of treated like a halfway house where they pop in every now and again to come and visit the mothers, and you get a really lovely idea of the clan dynamics. The males come to visit, the females come to visit. You get an idea of where the cubs stand by watching their mother's behavior and by watching their behavior. Mom. Poor put upon Mom. All right, you two. Veronica, you want to know how old they are before they start getting their spots. From watching these hyenas at the den site, we start to see the spots coming through at about 3 or so months. And these hyenas, I would guess at and say they're already close to a month old. Look at that! Look at you balancing like that. Maybe about 3 weeks or so, but I think a little bit older. I think about close to a month. It takes them a lot longer than we realize for them to first poke their heads out of the den. And they usually do that at around about 10 days. Of course, hyena cubs born with fully erupted teeth, so they're already ready to bite and chew when they are born. And that whole birthing process is a very difficult experience for the mother, and she's quite young. I would suggest, just by looking at her and how intact she is. Look at these two loving their mother. So this might even be her first litter, in which case she's done very, very well for both cubs to survive, because due to the nature of female anatomy in spotted hyenas, they actually, oh, look how scarred and scratched up this cub is already. And that's inflicted by the other one. There you go, that's how. My goodness, they look like those little sphinx cats, those little hairless cats. What was I talking about? Oh yes, due to the anatomy of the female, the birthing process is very complicated. Our Djuma, as I said a little earlier, I reckon they're about 3 weeks old to about a month. So I don't know whether she's moved them from another den. Perhaps they had a den site around Treehouse Dam. Look how brave they are. They're a little bit too bold and inquisitive to be much younger than that. Then they only really start to poke their heads out when they're around about 7 to 10 days old. And they're much, much tinier than this. So I would guess at around a month or so. Oh, you're getting so brave. Shall we risk a reposition, Brian? Shall we try it? I want them to be closer to their mum when we switch our engine on. I don't want it to be as they're exploring, because that's going to be negative reinforcement of that whole process. But as long as they see mum is relaxed and calm, then they'll be able to judge their behavior from her. Here we go. Okay, well, we've got an okay view for now. Let's settle for this for now. Katie, this is the average size of a hyena litter. They don't have more than 2, mainly due, in fact, to, well, first of all, limited by the number of nipples they have, but also due to that birthing process. So it's very common for first-time mothers for the first or the second cub to actually get stuck and to die during the birth, and that's because, obviously, the spotted hyena is one of the few mammals with a fused urinary and vaginal tract. So they urinate and give birth and mate through exactly the same thing, which is an extended, almost phallic-like organ. In fact, very phallic-like organ. So it's a tricky process for them. Now, they don't have more than 2. Sometimes, if you have 2 hyena cubs born of the same sex, there is a chance that one will kill the other. So, for example, with Pretty's cub, November, there's only 1. I'm so happy, I'm almost speechless. Don't forget to send through your questions, #SafariLive on Twitter. All those weeks and weeks of hard work and walking the same place and driving the same place, and they've wound up at the Philemon's Cutline Den. I don't believe it, Brian. After all we tried to do, all that searching. Yes, I'm looking at you, girl. Your babies are beautiful, but you did lead us on rather a wild goose chase. Bonk. Head down. Exhausted. Now, Zaz, you want to know if hyenas always leave the clan to have their babies. No, not necessarily at all. I would guess and say that there is a connection between their rank and whether or not they will keep their babies in the same den as other hyenas. But even then you can't draw exact conclusions. So what will often happen is that females will have babies at the same time, and they'll share a den. So we've seen litters from 3 different females before at one den site, all of 3 different ages, but quite close together in age. Whereas I would suggest that Gwen would be unlikely to bring her cubs to this den. I've changed my mind about the possibility of her cubs being here. I suppose it is a possibility, but just because they're so much bigger, they're going to be rowdy and rambunctious, and Gwen is a low-ranking hyena. So if her cubs hurt the cubs of a higher-ranking hyena, the higher-ranking hyena is going to turn around and discipline them, and she won't be able to do anything to stop it. And that's often, it's theorized by some biologists that is actually how quite a few hyena cubs are killed, aunt-aside, by being killed by a higher-ranking member of the clan, an adult member. Could you get a more contented scene? Oh, I don't envy her. Imagine those teeth, Brian. I bet you they chew like little monsters. Yay! Fluff balls! Sorry everybody, I'm just listening to the updates from Cheetah Plains, so I'm just listening with half an ear to what's going on that side. And we have a game drive radio for our new viewers that connects all of us and allows us to share where all of the animals are. Now, Brendan, you want to know what the survival rate is? Pretty good, actually. I would say that in this area, and having observed, because remember survival rates will differ from area to area, having observed the various cubs growing up over the last 2 years, or nearly 2 years, I would say that the survival rate in this particular area is not bad at all. As far as we know, both January twins, both December twins, and November have all survived to sub-adult stage, and it helps to have the protection of a den site, and it helps to have the protection of a clan to ensure the survival. And I suspect, look, it's up for debate, it's really speculation, I suspect the reason our hyenas disappeared is because they were clever. They decided that for that 8 months of that year, they didn't want to be around where the Nkuhumas were raising their cubs, because the biggest threat to a hyena cub is a lion. And not too long ago, the lions did actually kill We don't know which hyena, unfortunately. It was outside of our Traverse area, but they did manage to kill a sub-adult spotted hyena. So happy. This is the best way to start a day ever. James is going to be so chuffed. We'll have to pass the message on to him as soon as we possibly can. He's been as invested as myself and the other presenters in searching for them. We're not going to go anywhere just yet, but let's go and get an update from Brent to see if his morning is as special as ours.
Well, it is a special because of the sunrise, but no sign of the royal family just yet. But we can hear. Oh, now, of course, it keeps quiet. There we go. Grey-headed bushwhack. And it is looking like it's going to be a stunning day. Look at that sky. We can finally dry out all our boots and other things. It was starting to, all our clothes are starting to smell a bit damp. I'm quite thankful. Louise in Final Control is excited for a fresh towel. Of course, when it rains, and it doesn't rain more than about 36 or 37 days a year here, so generally tumble dryers and stuff, not something you keep out in the bush, you use the sun. There's been a shortage of that over the last little while. Okay, so I'm idling, or not even idling, my engine's off and I'm just rolling down the road, checking very carefully in all the little bits of soft sand, hoping to find a sign of those leopards, or hear the bark of a kudu, or the roar of a lion. At the moment, just the of a grey-headed bushwhack. So I did get an update from Andrew earlier that there were wild dog tracks on Cheetah Plains, but unfortunately they've crossed into the Kruger. But we know dogs could pop up anyway, so fingers crossed. And there was apparently a male lion roaring maybe around the open areas, so they're going to go check down there while we check here. So if anything changes, we might be shooting down to the east. Now, one of the nice things about after the rain is a lot of the big a lot of the big cats and other creatures are going to have to re-scent mark all their boundaries. So they're going to be walking down roads, spraying urine all over the place, calling. So quite nice to find some sign of them or hear them, because tracking's so difficult. But with us keeping moving east and no sign so far, let's go back to Jamie with the latest little additions to Djuma.
The latest little additions to Djuma have settled for now and have managed to find their spot and suckling away. Our hyena milk, spotted hyena milk, is one of the richest of all of the mammal milks out here. So they are getting a really good, thorough and balanced start to life. Sound like one of those powdered milk adverts. All the vitamins and fat that they need to grow, and they do grow relatively quickly. And it's going to be fascinating to watch these two as they start to grow up, as we start to get an idea of male, female, where they fall into the ranking system of our spotted hyenas. Oh, I just want to go tuck in that tail. So cute. Sorry, it's quite hard not to get a little bit sappy around new hyena cubs. You definitely wouldn't want to go and cuddle one, though. That I can tell you. First of all, they're quite smelly, and second of all, even at that age, I'm pretty certain they could administer a really powerful bite. They'd probably, even at this age, be able to take off your finger. So I think that is definitely something to be avoided. Oh, this is going to be so exciting. I don't know if the the VR guys realize, but they should actually be dancing for joy on the back of Brent's vehicle and wherever else they happen to be. And the reason that I say that is because of all of the animals. Hyenas, particularly young hyenas, tend to be the most curious around the vehicles. So they'll come right up to that VR rig. And I think, Brian, was it with you? We got that amazing... We got the fight on VR, and then we had... Oh, no, it was with VM that I had the other sighting where they were all wandering around underneath the VR in the front of the vehicle and so on. And it's an interesting thing that doesn't carry over into adult behavior. So whilst the adults are still curious and intelligent, they don't mess with the vehicles in the same way. So they don't come up and chew on your tires or anything like that once they're an adult, which is why, well, obviously we don't let them chew on the tires. If we realize that it's happening, we'll give the car a gentle tap just to get them to create some space between us. They shouldn't really be doing that. My highlight was once I was turned around to talk to somebody behind me long ago, back in a vehicle that had side mirrors, which, as you can imagine, with us is quite a bad idea. Imagine if these vehicles had side mirrors. Well, they wouldn't. They wouldn't anymore, if we're completely honest. But the next thing I heard this doof and a crunch, and I looked around, and this hyena was busy chewing on my side mirror. That was taking things a bit far, so I bopped it on the head. Definitely not something you should try at home. Not that I think many people would have the opportunity. I never did it again. But they grow out of that behavior. And after that, spotted hyena won't cause that sort of nonsense. They will if you leave something like an aeroplane parked on a tarmac overnight without protecting the tires. Hyenas love to chew on rubber. It's one of their favorite things. And many a pilot has returned to find that all of a sudden their tires have been shredded by the jaws of a hyena. Oh, look at that. Sun kissing the tops of the trees. Baby hyenas. It doesn't get better. And one very, very sleepy mum who has provided us with these special bundles of teeth. I was going to call them bundles of joy. Bundles of teeth. Oh, Michael, you want to know if we're able to sex the cubs at this age? Michael, the easiest way will be to watch their behavior, and then we can start to guess. But as Ribbon has taught us, it's never a completely foolproof sort of process unless you actually can closely examine the hyenas, or, as with Ribbon, you have a chance to see them suckling cubs or mating. So it is a tricky thing to do, and it's especially hard when they are this age. So I mentioned earlier that female hyenas have a pseudo-penis. It's actually essentially a lengthened, modified clitoris that is, in essence, when they're this age, especially, essentially the same. So there are minute differences that you can try and look for in terms of the ending, with the males having a slightly different ending to that particular to their genitalia than the females, but it's really tricky. And of course their testicles haven't descended, and even with testicles it's also tricky because the female's teats are positioned in that same area and the labia are extended so that it looks like testicles or a scrotum. So it is really tricky to do sex a hyena, especially at this age. But we can start to make assumptions while we watch them with their behavior, see if one is slightly more dominant than the other, or not actually slightly, a lot more dominant than the other, and that will suggest to us that it is a female. But as Ribbons taught us, you've got to be a bit careful. It's not foolproof unless you've actually got them under anesthetic and you're closely examining them. I'm excited to see the rest of the clan coming by to visit as well. Must be nearly time for Madam to have cubs, and Pretty, and Corky. The gang's all together again, Brian. Or hopefully the gang's going to all be together again. These cubs are going to bring us so much joy. Personal bias, I hope they move to the Mvubu Road den. Not now, we've just found them. Let's keep it this way for now. But that Mvubu Road den is just such a perfect setup. The Philemon's Cutline den used to be, but since it's been abandoned for so long, the trees have been knocked over and it's just a little bit more difficult. Now, Soraya, you want to know at what age are the hyena cubs weaned? Or sorry, not weaned, start eating meat. So they'll start eating meat at around about just over 6 months. There is an interesting thing about hyena cubs being weaned and the ranking of the mothers, and that's information that's come through from a study that's been done. So the hyena cubs of high-ranking females, in general, we've got to be careful because not every study is applicable to this area. Not everything is applicable to these hyenas. They don't read the studies that were done, so they don't know what they're meant to be doing. In general, the spotted hyenas of high-ranking females... spotted hyena cubs of high-ranking females will start to eat meat a little bit sooner, but they will wean a bit later, and that's because their mothers have access to the best pickings of a meal, so they are able to produce milk for longer, so they're able to continue to lactate for longer and feed their cubs. However, the reason that the cubs start to eat meat earlier is because the higher-ranking females will often bring food back to the den site, where generally lower-ranking hyenas won't. That, by the way, I'm pretty sure underneath its tail, I'm pretty sure that's its anal gland, which of course is what puts hyenas closer to the sort of the mustelid and herpestidae families, the badgers and the civets and the genets, rather than close to dog families or cat families, for example. I'm so chuffed I'm not going anywhere. But while I sit here patiently to wait to see if these hyena cubs decide to stir after their meal, Tayla's up along with the sun. Let's go and have a look.
Good morning, isn't that fantastic with the sun just peeping over the horizon? And well, how exciting that Jamie's got the little hyena cubs. My name is Tayla, and on camera with me this morning is Craig. And of course, as you know, Herbert, the mighty protector, is also out looking after us today. Well, he's actually guarding something for me over there. Very brave, it's very big and scary. Come and have a look. It's one of my favorite little creatures. No, don't run away, Craig. Can you see it yet? There it is down there. Now, it's a tiny little thing. Eventually we're going to have a look at it. But it is all covered in sand at the moment. Can you see that? Now, I have a question for all of you to start the morning off to see if you're all ready and concentrating. What are we looking at? What is that thing crawling around on the ground covered in sand? Hashtag Safari Live with your answers on Twitter, or questions at WildEarthTV is an email address that you can send your answer through. But isn't it just magnificent? And it's disappearing now, hiding behind some of the grass, and off it goes, where it will blend in very nicely. It's very exposed when they're out on the road like that. There are lots of different things, birds, snakes, that would probably want to eat it. But it's incredible, and I really wish it would have stayed out on the road a little bit longer, because it is so difficult to have a look at it. So if you did get a picture, maybe you've just started joining us, we're trying to figure out what I'm looking at. I know what I'm looking at, and I'm sure some of you will also know what we were just looking at. So perhaps share some of your screenshots that you've taken as well, just in case somebody has missed it and not sure what we just saw. Unfortunately, this little critter that we did look has now disappeared in the long grass, and I didn't get an opportunity to show you, but he was the size of my thumbnail, so absolutely tiny, as you can imagine. And it's a pity that it has disappeared, because it's one of my favorite things out here in the bush. Sorry, Louise, did you say Jamet? I'm just trying to hear if I heard that correctly. Jamis, here we go. Now, you've said that it is a rain frog. Congratulations to you. Well done on being the first one to guess correctly. That is indeed a rain frog. And I'm trying to work out, I don't know if I've put a rain frog on screen yet, but they are one of my absolute favorite frogs out there. I love them all. Frogs are well, probably my favorite thing about the bush. There are many elements that I absolutely love, but that specific subject is my absolute favorite. You all know how excited I get, and I'm really sad that our friend didn't join us this morning, but he's gone off on a little adventure now. We will leave him to it, and good luck, little bush rain frog. I hope that you succeed in your life. It's very tiny. It's still got a lot of growing to do. Probably only recently just developed into that size, and as you know, the rain frogs don't get very big. About that size is sort of how large they get. Nothing too much more than that. So that's probably only a few weeks old since it has, well, developed into a lovely looking frog. And it's funny to see that even when they are as young as that, just a couple of weeks old, they've still got that frown that the bushveld rain frogs love to wear. Now, it seems as though Brent is well scouring all the areas today, making sure that no leopards have got in or out. Well, you know, Brent's the best tracker. Well, he thinks he is. Of course, I'm just teasing. I think it's time to go back across to him and, well, see what he's got.
Oh, Tayla causing a fight already this morning. You know what, I'm going to be dignified and the bigger man and say, we all know, I don't need to say, but we've checked the whole southern boundary, and there's no sign of the queen or the cubs, and from what I can hear, they're following up on alarm calls in Little Gowrie. So turn down, there we go. So I'm pretty sure she's there, but oh, look at this light that's coming through at the moment, and some very happy looking little impalas. Is that quite strange? Oh, off they go. Run into the golden light. Don't run into the shadows, you silly creatures. Hoppity hop hop hop. So what we're going to do is we're going to go see if we can find the Djuma pride. Hopefully they're going to be a bit more active than they've been in the last couple of days. I think with all this wet, dewy grass, they're going to want to be walking down the roads or the big elephant paths to try and not get too damp this morning or get grass seeds in their eyes. So we're right on the eastern boundary now, and unfortunately we had the tracks of one male lion and he's crossed south. And then just to let you know, the other 3 Birmingham boys that were in Buffelshoek yesterday have crossed into Sibambili. So unfortunately the males are gone. Actually you can see his tracks here, and you can see the big male lion tracks down the road. And he was actually he was moving relatively quickly, a little bit faster than a slow walk, so a quick walk. But from what I was listening to last night, I think he was gone ski by about 10 o'clock last night. He had already crossed our southern boundary. So, but he took a break over here. So we're going to go see if we can find the Nkuhumas. Hopefully they're still on Djuma. Remember, hashtag Safari Live, questions at WildEarthTV if you've got any questions for us. No, good. It's just that male lion still walking. So we're going to keep heading towards the last position of the Nkuhumas. While we do that, let's go back to our apex predator number 2, the hyenas with Jamie.
Hopefully we managed to fill your day with several apex predators this morning, but for now we've got some very tiny ones. Oh, big yawn. You can see clearly when she yawns like that she's a young hyena. Those teeth are in perfect condition still. Now, little one, are you itchy? I'm not surprised. Living in that den site with all those flies. That's, of course, why hyenas... Mom, I don't want a bath. That's why spotted hyena cubs get moved on a regular basis, just to prevent that build-up of parasites around the den. They're not clean animals. And there's a certain scent that accompanies a regularly accessed hyena den. It smells a little bit like a combination between wet dog and rotting meat, I think is probably... It's a smell that you come to love. It's not an instinctive, nice smell. and welcome and good morning to Claire. Claire, no, hyenas don't, well, adult hyenas don't excavate the den. So what they'll do is they'll take over from an already utilized hole in a termite mound, something that might have been dug by an aardvark. Oh, so brave. Yeah, it was a big, wide, scary world out there. Oh, shame, poor mom. She just wants a nap. She keeps getting thumped by little feet. So the adults won't excavate. They'll have their cubs, and then the cubs themselves actually do the excavating. So this den site, when I last visited it on bushwalk, had completely collapsed inside. And what you'll find now is that these little cubs will have excavated little nooks and crannies that they can crawl into that will keep them safe from the larger predators that won't be able to follow them into the den. And it's generally lions that are the biggest risk to a hyena den like this, particularly a male lion, and particularly a young male lion. They tend to invest more energy in chasing other predators and trying to catch and kill them. Although all lions will do it, all predators will do it, they would equally return the favor if they could. But the little cubs will excavate themselves, and the hyena adults, the mothers, will never be able to go right into the den. So they can go in a little bit, as we saw with Gwen. I'm the king of the castle. Look at it. But they won't be able to go where the cubs go, which is why when we see them go and call the cubs, they have to stand at the entrance and give off this sort of low woo, woo, woo sound to call the cubs out. Look at that balance. I'm super impressed. Oh, we appear to have a visitor. Sorry, hold on 1 second. Oh, marvellous. It's Aubrey. They're going to be so chuffed. Look, cubs. Look who's coming to say hello to you. You're very popular. Yes, you are. Alright, Aubrey and I are going to have to do some shuffling around so that we can both see. We'll send you across to Tayla, who is having a look at something else.
We've got a couple of birds that are perched up upon a dead tree that should look very familiar to most of you. It is a guinea fowl and a Burchell's starling, and isn't that quite lovely? I suspect that guinea fowl, which is not normally known to be sitting up so high in a tree, unless something has chased it up the top there, or well, unless it hasn't quite woken up yet, will be perched up there. Maybe it's having a scan around to make sure that there isn't any leopards or lions out and about. But I don't know where the rest of them are. I'm actually trying to have a look just around the corner to see where the rest of the guinea fowl, they don't seem to be anywhere. Can you believe that? Typically they live in groups, but not this one. This one's very, very brave today and venturing out all on its own. And I suppose if I were there as well, all on my own, I'd probably choose the highest point possible. Because when you're just one guinea fowl and you've only got one pair of eyes and one pair of ears, I think it must be a little bit daunting moving around out in the wilderness, because there are so many different things, well, I suppose, that would want to eat you. Owls first thing in the morning, a big Varro's eel. I would love to have the taste, well, love to eat a guinea fowl. A young leopard cub, a crocodile, anything, really. But isn't that beautiful? Not too bothered up there, feeling very safe, just grooming itself this morning, which I suppose is a good thing to do too. I also brushed my hair this morning, brushed my teeth, washed my face, had a shower, did all those things. And well, what that bird is doing is the equivalent of that. So we're going to move on from these birds now. A very nice way though, I think, to start the morning, to have a little silhouetted bird, is we're going to join Brent in the search for the Nkahumas. That's why I've got my handy little eyedropper, which I use to tell the direction of the wind. Not that there's much wind today, unfortunately. There's a very, 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 let's actually check. It's interesting. Normally the wind comes from the southeast. Not today. It's actually swirling a little bit. Seems to be coming a little bit from the north. My goodness. Right, let's get on it then. It's good to have something like this when you are walking, because, well, we hope that we see the animals before they see us. But as you saw the other day, is that the elephants, well, snuck up on us, really. A whole herd of elephants snuck up on us, and we were very safe. But It's always good to have some form of way to just tell when the wind is blowing, because on a day like today when there's not even a bit of breeze, you might have to use a little bit more cover, and then when the sun eventually bursts through all of the clouds, you'll need to use the sun in your favor as well. Where is Herbie? Herbie's there. Actually, come with us. Let's take the sneaky shortcut. There's something that I want to show you just down over here. I'd actually spotted it yesterday and I didn't get an opportunity to chat about it. There was a bird, a starling, I'm not sure which starling yet, that had died, and I want to see if it's still here. But there is a chance that a jackal or something has come through and actually, or even a hyena has come through and picked it up and munched on it. It would make for a nice snack. Herbie, I wonder if it's still here. So it was just down below. Let's quickly check. I think Herbie is out here and checking the roads for us. Is it gone now? Oh, something has eaten it. Let me just check over here. So it was actually, I can smell it was here. Anyway, it was lying in one of these two cracks that's caused by the erosion from the water on the side of this little steep incline over here. So I see a lot of white-tailed mongoose tracks coming through here. I wonder if one of those maybe didn't snatch up that little bird, because it's completely gone. There's actually not even a feather around. So maybe something bigger has come through and completely devoured it. That's a shame, because oh no, here's the feathers. I'm speaking nonsense. It just means I have to look a little bit better. So it was here. Oh, a hyena got it. Come and look at this. This is so cool. You can actually see its footprints. Look at this. This is what happens. I wasn't checking very well. I should have come closer. Look here. Here's a hyena footprint. There's the feathers. You see those feathers over there? And then this is where the bird was sitting, right in here. You can see there's another hyena footprint that's obviously come, stood here, and devoured the entire thing. But they've got beautiful feathers, and I think that the hyena thought that these feathers weren't going to be tasty. I suspect that it was a Burchell's starling. Just from the size of it, looked a little bit bigger than the Cape Glossy starling. Now, like I said, we're going to give Brent a hand in searching for the nkuhumas. We need to get a move on because we don't want to get left behind. Of course, we've got Herbie on our side. Let's go across to Brent and see how he's doing on his little tracking exercise.
Look at that. Now that's Mariepskorp. The tallest tower there is what's bringing you this picture. So that's probably about 80 kilometers away as the crow flies. But we've got some good news. On our search for the nkuhumas, we found big male leopard tracks, very fresh. So I'm just trying to see, as the ground gets a bit hard, the last tracks are just up here, which way did he go? Or if he's watching me right now. Let's have a quick look. Now you see that the ground's really compact, so an animal like a leopard, which is not that heavy and walks very lightly, even on soil like this, can leave almost zero impressions. I think heading towards Buffels Hook waterhole. Have a look. There are also hyena tracks around, which makes it a little bit more difficult. It's a bit tough at the moment. Now, I'll show you quickly what I'm seeing, because this is one of those things that you sometimes can't believe how faint a track a 200-pound animal can make. And I think we're not too far behind him, and if this is Tingana, he's going to go like this, and then straight down central. So keep a listen out on the Djuma dam cam. Might hear some alarm calls around there. I'm actually going to get hold of Herbie now and ask him to check carefully on central. Let's just show you a track quickly. Now, you're just going to have to take my word for it though. Because you get, let me just, as I said, you're just going to have to take my word for it. But that is a male leopard track. So if I draw it out, might be a bit easier. There's the back pad there, and the toes there. So he's heading straight towards the Buffelshoek waterhole, but as you can see, tracking after the rain can be quite challenging. Oh, let's get all our bibs and bits and bobs back in. Let me see what. Okay, so I'm going to chat to Herbie while I do that. We're going to go back to Tayla, who's going to show you some slightly easier tracks to see.
We are indeed. Now, we saw those hyena tracks where it had come through and eaten the starling. Now, we've actually picked up on something else that's really, really funny. Look at what has gone on over here. Now, if you look very carefully, I have to show you this one over here. You can see, whoo, go away, fly, that there is a big circle. And there's a little toenail over there. So this is from a young elephant yesterday that decided, well, this looked like a very easy route to go down, and I'm going to test it. Now, I'm not going to go down like the elephant with its 2 legs, but we shall try and see how slippery it is. Whew, are you ready, Herbie? Will you hold this for me? Okay, can't lose that because that tells us which way the wind is going. So elephant would have come down here going, oh yeah, no, I've got my 4x4 engaged, this is fine, I'll be okay. And then went, woo! And literally sat on its bum. And then, well, it probably died a little bit of embarrassment, and all the other elephants probably laughed at it too. And well, then it carried on with its day. But it just shows you that even something like an elephant, which has got natural 4x4 tread underneath its feet, can't sustain and can't stay up on mud like this. Now, I think going down would have been the easy part. I don't know about going up so much. That was a little bit more tricky. But oh, hang on. Who have we got sitting up over here? We've got a new friend that's joined us. Look at this little bird. It looks like a sparrow. It's obviously a little bit difficult for me, but it does look like a little southern grey-headed sparrow. Hello. Right, I think enough of this nonsense of us sliding around again. Jamie's got those very sweet little hyena cubs, and I'm sure you're absolutely dying to see them.
The very sweet hyena cubs, I think, might just have gone to bed. It's time for little sleepy growing cubs to have a bit of a nap. So unless they come out in the next few minutes, we'll probably just leave them be and let them enjoy their morning snooze and go off in search of other things. I just wanted to say, I've seen some of those elephant slipping tracks. There's some just here on Philemon's cut line, and it's quite entertaining to imagine the elephants sort of slipping and sliding, provided they don't hurt themselves or twist an ankle joint or something. You can actually see the one where it tried to stop itself with its back toenail. There's this long slide down the hill. So obviously the weather's been a bit of a hazard for the elephants. We had that sinkhole yesterday and lots of slip tracks absolutely everywhere. No, not particularly sure of themselves and on their feet. Alright, I think let's give it a few more seconds, maybe answer 1 or 2 more questions, but I think that our little cubs have gone to bed. And that's why you need to be at these hyena dens at the crack of dawn, because that's when or at dusk, because that's when you get your best hyena cub sightings. Oh, is it me or does Ribbon look relieved? Yeah. There's definitely, without anthropomorphizing too much, there's definitely a relieved tilt to her head. Finally, some peace. It's exhausting being the mum of new hyena cubs. She's looking round-bellied and full, though. Although I don't think I have seen a hyena in 2 years that is not round-bellied and full. They seem to be doing very well for themselves. That's just her tail flicking. Lots of flies have already gathered at the entrance to this den, which is inevitable. And irritating flies. A lot of those marks on those cubs, particularly around their ears, could have been caused by these biting flies. They gather together, and it's very itchy, isn't it, Brian, when they bite you? Yeah. It itches like crazy for about 15 minutes, and then eventually it goes away. But the initial bite, one of them bit me through my trousers yesterday. I suppose they've got to get through hyena fur and lion fur. Makes sense they'd be able to get through clothing. Needless to say, I wasn't very impressed. Morning to Jeannie. Jeannie, you want to know if their cubs can get mange? Yes, absolutely. Hyenas. Oh, hello. Ah, fooled. Sorry, Ribbon. No peace for you. Jeannie, yes, they can get mange. Hyenas can get mange. Essentially any mammal species out here can. The marks on these hyena cubs, though, are not mange. This is what normal little brown hyena cubs look like. Some of the marks are scars, some of them are scars from biting each other, others are just bald patches from rubbing in a den, from sleeping in the same position. It's very common to see them with those marks, and they'll eventually disappear, but it will be, there, you see those sharp teeth? Just a glimpse of those needle points. Those of you with puppies or kittens, or have had puppies or kittens in your life before, you'll know exactly how sharp milk teeth are for these little carnivores. Now imagine that coupled with the jaw strength of a hyena. Hello. You looking at me? So today I've decided we're going to give them plenty of space. So we're just going to stay in this exact position, and then gradually, slowly but surely, we'll be able to shift so that we get a better view. But it might take us a few days. Let's let them relax. The lovely thing about hyena cubs is their natural curiosity. You can see it. I believe you can see it very clearly in the expression in their eyes. You can actually see the bright curiosity. Yes, give your mum some loving. She deserves it. I'm almost certain you are her first babies. So an exhausting experience. Don't chew on her. Don't climb on her head. I hope you're getting some amazing screenshots, because one day, in a few months from now, we're going to look back on them and go, my goodness, we cannot believe that they were once this tiny. You see a little bald patch on the shoulder. Oh, Ravi in New York, lovely question, but difficult to answer. Which animal has the strongest bond between offspring and mother? The reason I say it's a difficult question is because the maternal instincts of all of our mammal species run very, very strong. Generally, you'll find that it is the animals that invest the longest time in pregnancy and in raising their cubs, and it's usually quite a small ratio. But that's a difficult blanket rule to apply. I would not say to you that this hyena Ribbon loves these cubs more than, or has a stronger bond with these cubs more than the Nkuhumas do with their cubs. It's very difficult to say. Elephants have very, very powerful bonds with their youngsters, bonds that last longer, generally, just because it takes longer for a baby elephant to grow up. Look at you! Obviously, reptiles and birds, it's a completely different thing. And I can say that probably the mammal species with a slightly weaker bond, hello little teeth, that was a proper little hyena smile over there. Probably the weakest bond would be antelope, just because they have to. Their offspring grow up so quickly because they have to do so in order to survive. The antelope can't spare the resources. They need to have the energy to be able to run, to be able to survive the dry season. So I would say that antelope probably have the weakest bond. Not initially. Oh. Double trouble there. Not to be cliched or anything. Brian and I are so chuffed. Are you happy, Brian? Mm-hmm. It's not a pangolin or an aardvark, but it is a special surprise. Yeah. Look how wobbly the back legs are. Hyena cubs are born with quite weak back ends. Their hips and their back legs tend to be quite wobbly for the first few weeks, until they strengthen them by wandering around the den. Yep, there we go. Chew toy. And every single plant around this den is going to fall victim to the needles of the hyena cubs. They're going to chew this, every single plant. They make for useful chew toys. Hey, you're a bit wrinkly. Mouthful of mum. Luckily, hyenas are pretty thick-skinned. We know the feeling, hey, hyenas. Shirley, you want to know... when the mother will rejoin the pack. Shirley, she hasn't left the clan, and what we'll find is, as we spend a bit more time with this at this hyena den, you'll find that they'll come and visit her, rather than the other way around. And then as the cubs go to sleep, it's time for her to go and forage. She'll reconnect with the rest of the clan. So she's not separate from them necessarily. And it's not, as we spoke about earlier, it's not uncommon to find several hyenas sharing a den site with cubs of various ages. Oh, my ear hurts in sympathy. There's some sightings that don't really need words, do they? Ow. Ow. If you were in any doubt as to where the scars come from, I think that should pretty much clear that up. Also, very useful having such stretchy skin. They look as though they've been stretched in the wash. Like somebody washed their coats a little bit too hot, and now they don't quite fit. There is one other thing that I would love to show you. I would really dream of showing you, and that's baby brown hyenas. A baby brown hyena is arguably cuter, although that's a pretty tough call to make. But I hope one day our Wild Earth travels take us somewhere where we'll be able to share that with you, because those are truly special. Michelle, you want to know how big they are when they are born? Just a couple of 100 grams, and probably roughly the size of a dwarf mongoose, just not as long, if that makes any sense. I'll show you with my hands when the cubs are being less entertaining. Obviously, they've got to be as small as possible. It's a real balance that spotted hyenas have to strike, because they've got this peculiar genitalia setup, which makes birthing them very difficult. But at the same time, they've got to be born big enough to be able to be safe in the den site and dig a little bit into the den site when they are born. One of the big things about them, of course, unlike puppies and kittens, is that they're born with those erupted teeth. Look at it chewing. Poor mom's leg. Leave her foot alone. You're horrible. Yes, kick him, Ribbon. Or her. Push it off. Don't let them get away with this. Oh, now onto Mom's tail. Our sofa potato, yes, potentially they do have contact with their father. Their father might be, sorry, so every now and again they do something so cute I lose my words, might be a nomadic male, but there's a good chance that it's actually one of the clan males. I'm going to throw it out there and say not Ribbon, given that she's actually a female and we've all had a case of mistaken identity. But they will have contact. If their father is a clan male, they will have contact with it. No, he doesn't play a role actively in raising the cubs, so he'll tolerate them. He has to. If he doesn't, he'll get into big trouble from Mom, who is of course bigger and more dominant. Ouch, that hurt. Sensitive skin around the foot. But he does play an important role in defending the clan's territory. But other than that, he will come and go. He'll come and visit the den site, reconnect with the other hyenas, be reminded of his place, put back into his place, and then off he'll go. Hey, Wrinkles. Oh! Collision. Every now and again they remember that we're here, and we get that curious look. And then they get distracted there, that look. That head bob look. You are full of nonsense. Whoops. You're not going to recognize the behavior of these cubs in a week's time. They're going to be running around 30 feet from the entrance to the den. They are going to develop and build their curiosity so fast. Now, Kerbo, you want to know how strong the jaw pressure is of these cubs at this age. Actually, I'm not 100% sure. I would say stronger than a human being's, and our jaw pressure is actually quite strong. Obviously, it's not nowhere near the strength of a spotted hyena. 300 psi, if I had to guess. I think already their jaws are well developed, and you can actually see it in the comparative size of their heads to the rest of their bodies. Their heads are a little bit too large, and they're sort of slightly top heavy. But you can see they've got strength to their jaws, if the indications of pain coming from the other cubs are any sign of that. I would guess I don't know exactly though, and I'm not sure. I don't know whether... Ow! Makes me want to sneeze just looking at that. I would guess that, but I honestly don't know. If any of you have access, whether there's any studies that have been done to test the bite pressure of a month-old cub, I'd be very interested to hear of it. Send it through, obviously, the normal ways, along with your questions, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or email through to questions@wildearth.tv. And perhaps Brent can give us an idea of what he thinks the bite pressure might be. I honestly don't know off the top of my head. Maybe Taylor'd like to weigh in. Hard, I imagine. Oh, poor Mom just wants to sleep. Where are you going? What you doing? How brave can we be? How far can we get before we get scared and have to run home? So much for being bedtime, Brian.
Yeah.
I imagine that Ribbon's thinking much the same. Okay, while our little cub tests its boundaries, let us go and see what the wonderful Miss McCurdy's up to on her stroll through the bush.
I'm envious, Jamie, that you're you're sitting with those two little cubs that are all playing around. That must be absolutely beautiful to watch. So, we're on Central at the moment. We're actually approaching Hyena Road now, so we've come quite a long way. And we're searching for lion tracks. We're searching for leopard tracks. Those are the missions that Brent has sent us out on this morning. But sadly, nothing just yet. The only tracks we have managed to find, well, is ours. And then, of course, plenty of elephant footprints. And you can actually have a look on the ground. Look at all the leaves that we've got scattered about. That is from the elephants. They're feeding on the bush willows that are around here. And I wonder if it wasn't these bulls again that were playing about. Because if you remember yesterday's sighting, you saw that as they started pushing each other around, they'd take a couple of mouthfuls too. And, well, all the leaves would scatter on the ground. And it's not typical that an elephant will drop most of its food out of its mouth unless, well, it's forced. So we're just checking over here. But as Brent was saying earlier this morning, it's a little bit difficult to track, particularly on the substrate that we're on now. This is normally a nice sandy road. That was a biting fly, sorry. I don't know if I got it or not. And it is so important to check very carefully, because here the ground is now compacted so hard that even when we walk, we're not really leaving a footprint behind anymore. So we need the sun to come out and dry this road up. If it was sort of around twin dams where the sand is a lot sort of loose, it's not quite so compacted together like it is over here, then when the animals walk, they sort of sink into the sand a little bit and actually leave quite a nice track behind. But in this case, it's proving very difficult, except I found an ant highway. Craig, if you look how cool this is, there's an entire system over here of an ant pathway. Look at that. Now this is something that we aren't normally able to see, and I think we've just got here in the nick of time before any vehicles have come driving over this particular road. But look at that. Let's find where they are living. I think that these ants are living somewhere in between the grass down over here. There's definitely a lot of old termite little chambers, temporary chambers. Actually, here, it's coming right from here. So it's coming out from this bundle of grass, and then you can follow it. It's going along. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. There's some joining from this side. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. And off the ants go, looking for food, any insects that have perhaps died in the night. These look like those little safari ants, the little red ones. They will collect them and take them back to the rest of the colony, where they will feast and have a delicious meal. But they're traveling far. Look at that. I wonder what the speed limit is here along these little road networks. Surely they must have traffic cops and that type of thing to control all of this commotion. But they're going straight into the end of this little entrance. Look at this. It's a tunnel. It's an underground tunnel that they're now going through. Isn't that just amazing? Hey, you, get back on the road. These yellow lines here, not supposed to be crossing out of its lane. That's very naughty, and you can see it's a one-way highway too. But occasionally you'll get one that decides, oh, I've forgotten something, I've forgotten my mobile phone. And then, well, off they go back to work. But very difficult. There's no two lanes over here. That's quite nice, don't you think? I thought that was really cool. Very, very hard at work, ants and termites. They never stop. I don't think that they ever sleep, and even if they do, I'm sure it's just a quick siesta before they have to carry on with, well, their day. Now I know you're probably thinking, why are we walking along these roads? And it is because we have to look for tracks. See if we can actually find some more ants. See, I think there's actually quite a few networks over here, but some of them could be Shongololo tracks, the millipede tracks too. No, here's another ant system. And Sarah, you're wondering what ants they were. Now, we haven't got any more ants just over here, but this is where they're also working again. There's lots of their little networks. I suspect that those little red ones were safari ants. And we might see some more. They're the best kind of ant because they're also the ones that come through your kitchen. Well, in South Africa, they're always in your house looking for moisture and for, well, bits of things that you perhaps have dropped and not able to put into your mouth. But they come and go. So they don't cause any hassles. They take what they need, and then they soldier on and head back home again. So they're good. Pick up all the cockroaches that have died or anything like that. Look at this. It looks like they've actually cleaned up a millipede. Can you see that? All that shell there, all this sort of churned up debris is often an indication of a mound of an ant, quite loose soil, which we saw where the termites pack it quite tightly. Even when they make their temporary structures, the termite sort of is a little bit harder. But there was a millipede, and you can imagine it's difficult for an ant to, well, feast upon the exoskeleton of insects, so probably just pulled its insides out, as gross as what that sounds, but at least it supplied a meal for somebody else. Who else do we have out here today? Better keep searching. I've actually got my head stuck to the ground. Herbie's scanning out about because we had seen some buffalo tracks not too long ago. Let's have a look. What do we have here? Ooh, someone was digging. Doesn't look particularly fresh. As you can see that there's a hole going down into the ground. Now this could be one of two things. This could either be the animal that Jamie has never seen, the aardvark, or it could also be from a porcupine. Now, because it's not fresh, it's a little bit difficult, but if it was a porcupine, and I did see a couple of exposed roots, but it was difficult to see if they were gnawed on. The porcupines will gnaw on the roots, whereas the aardvark, the anteaters, won't do that. They are just looking for termites. But we'll see if we can pick up maybe some more evidence. Maybe we find a fresher burrow that's been dug out. But I think Brent's hopped back into his vehicle now. I presume he was looking at tracks. Let's go see what he's got.
Well, those leopard tracks, unfortunately, have been obliterated by hippopotamus and elephant. As you can see, there's some striped bottoms jogging ahead of us. So we're going to try loop around, see if those leopard tracks come out. Also, just double check, see if the nkuhumas are still on the property. But, the zebras are leaving us and going into Torchwood now. Now, this is the stallion at the back. There he is. Now, when zebras move in single file, it's the oldest female always at the front and the stallion at the back. Oh, big bump. And they are on the march. So when zebras do move distance, this is how they move. Look at that. There we go. Perfect single file. And if anyone starts wandering out of line, the stallion will actually bite them, kick them till they stay in that straight line. Or if the not the oldest female, most experienced female, tries to lead, he'll do the same. Lots of stripy bottoms. And you can see from the light that where they're heading east. Lucky for them, if they headed west, that's where we left the nkuhumas. Bye, zebras. Okay, so we're going to check the fire break now. Now, when this male leopard, it could be one of two. Tingana uses that route quite regularly, but so does the ghost of the north, Mr. Djuma. So we're going to check carefully. Aubrey's going to he's dropped William off, who can walk on foot and check. William is Aubrey's tracker. And so we're going to check here, make sure, well, firstly that the lions haven't crossed to the north and that the leopard hasn't crossed to the north. Oh, excuse me. So again, still you can see we're going very slowly as not to miss tracks. Well, the one good thing I suppose about the tracking in the wet weather is that it makes your tracking in dry weather and the dry weather much easier, keeps your eyes sharp. Hyena. Morning, Corey. Corey wants to know how different are the eyes between the top predators. Well, the cats, their eyes are very, very similar. They're designed to do the same job. Dogs, wild dogs, cheetah, don't have as good a night vision as lion, leopard and hyena. And I'd probably say one of the best sort of vision out of all of them is, strange enough, hyena when it comes to day and night vision. But I would say that there's not much to go between lion, leopard and hyena though. Okay, so no sign of any... It's that hyena again, getting me confused. I see a vulture though. Have the nkuhumas had success overnight? There were some vultures snoozing above them last night, I think with false hope. When they saw the lions all lying flat out in the open, the vultures descended. Let's just get the vulture above the sky, above the mountains. There we go. There we go, white-backed vulture. With the Drakensberg in the background. Oh, that's quite nice. Too nice to ignore. snap, snap. And I just heard from Taxon that tracks of the Nkuhumas are actually quite a lot further to the west of us already. So those lions have headed towards camp, so around Gari Cut Line, their tracks. So they might be heading towards Mvubu Road next. Oh. Okay, so we now know that the lions are not going to be crossing north since their tracks are further to the west of us. So we're going to focus back on following the tracks of that male leopard. And Holly's wondering, why is that Djuma called the ghost of... Oh, that was a big spiderweb. The ghost of the north. Well, it's because we barely see him, and if we see him during the day, he runs away. He's not a relaxed, habituated leopard. Vim actually and I have got quite close to him, but in the dark. But it also took us about 2 days of starting 100 meters away and habituating him slowly to our presence. So it's why it's our nickname. Oh dear. Hold on. Turn around, because the lions are crossing into Buffalo's Hook, not too far down the road. So let's try and get there quickly. We might be able to get a quick view of the Nkuhumas before going back to track that leopard. Hold on. Tags, confirm the quarry to the west of Bapa. Okay, I'm going to try and get to those lines. They are crossing, so there's a chance we won't get a chance to see them. There's Aubrey. So now farmer to the Ngala quickly, and then I'll come back. So they're just overhead. They're heading due north away from us, unfortunately, but we'll try and get there. Good for the cars to get a little bit of a clean out of the carburetors as well. I think we might just get the sight of one bottom disappearing. There are tracks all around here. So, have they already disappeared? Oh, you naughty lions. It seems like we weren't fast enough to catch a view. Nope, they've disappeared to the north already. They were too fast for us this morning, but let's go back to those incredible hyenas with Jamie.
Oh, what a pity that the Nkuhumas decided to dash across our boundary, but never fear, I'm sure they will return, just like our hyenas have done. So Ribbon has moved out of the entrance to the den, and we've repositioned ever so slightly to see her, still keeping the same distance between us and them. And the cubs dashed off as soon as we switched on the vehicle, and now back again and ignoring us. So it just goes to show how quickly they habituate to the presence of our vehicles. And hyena cubs are the easiest of all of the animals to habituate because they've got that natural curiosity. And also, of course, how much it helps to have mom who is relaxed. Hey, little one, your sibling's not quite as brave. Mom, can I have some breakfast? Since my sibling is now absent, I can have you all to myself. Stunning. Really, truly stunning sighting. I could spend the entire morning here quite happily. The other one has gone into an entrance that I didn't even realize was open. So it just goes to show how much excavating they've done in the time that since they've arrived. Actually, I can see you. I think I can see the other one at the large entrance where they were earlier. Yeah, I think I see movement there. The one, so it disappeared into the hole on the left, and it's now in the hole on the right. I think it's there. Yes, there we go. It's okay, little munchkin. It's okay. We're not going to hurt you, I promise you. In a week's time, you are going to be having so much fun with us. Personally, I think when we come to visit hyena dens, once they are comfortable in our presence, I actually think we provide entertainment for the cubs. Something new and different and not so boring. You know, often mom's away, wandering off looking for food. There's only so many times you can chew on a stick or a bone before you want a new toy to play with. And I think that, honestly, I think that the hyenas enjoy, much like baby elephants do, enjoy that interaction. Takes away a little bit of the monotony to their day. Do you agree, Brian? I think so. I really think they enjoy coming to play with us. Obviously, we try to keep our interaction to an absolute minimum, but that's impossible at a hyena den. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so relieved that we finally got them back. The sun is out, sort of. There's no more rain. Everything's green. The dams are full, and the hyenas are back. I've been hoping this morning that one of them will come and visit. Not one of the other hyenas of the clan, I mean. Perhaps Madam or Corky or... Apparently, there's a theory, I got it from Chris Rogue, who of course knows our hyenas very well, who says that she thinks that Ribbon might be the daughter of Corky, which should be interesting. Gives us a really nice family tree, actually, into the various hyenas and how they interact with each other. So we've got at least 3 family lines, 3 different genetic females. What I mean by that is mothers and daughters, sisters, and so on. Madam and Pretty, Corky and Ribbon. And I'm not sure about Scarback and Gwen. We don't know. I don't know exactly where they fall into that system. Come on, little cub. Your sibling is getting all the milk. I'm going to hazard a guess. No, I'm not going to say that. I am going to say one has got a slightly bolder personality than the other. No. Vanished. Gone to bed. So Sheila, you want to have a sort of an explanation between when I'm saying a high and a low ranking hyena. And my apologies. Sometimes I sort of use terms without fully thinking them through, and that's a completely fair question. So hyenas have ranks within a hyena clan. You can think of it in the same way often society has a rank. So essentially what you'll get within a hyena clan is several different female families. So a mother and a daughter and so on. Mothers, daughters, sisters, and then separate females that are not closely related to them, but still part of the clan. And within that structure, you've got quite a strict hierarchy, where you've got a matriarch at the top. In the case of this particular clan, we strongly suspect it's Madam. I'm hesitant to say we know anything, but we strongly suspect it is a female called Madam. And then you'll have her, below her will be her daughters, and then below that will be the second ranking family and her daughters, and below that you'll sort of start to get the lower ranking females. And what that means is that sort of dominance is displayed particularly around kills. When there's limited access to food, the matriarch will feed first, and the high-ranking hyenas will feed first. It will express themselves in the behavior of their cubs, because cubs inherit their status from their mothers. So if you've got 2 sets of cubs playing, one is from a high-ranking female, one is from a low-ranking female, the high-ranking cubs will be much more aggressive and pushy. If the low-ranking female's cubs if the high-ranking cubs start to bully the low-ranking cubs and they start to squeak, if their low-ranking mother comes to protect them, she will be put in her place by the high-ranking female, the high-ranking mother. Does that make sense? I'm sorry, I know that was a bit confusing, but hopefully that's sort of clarified a little bit. So there's a very strict hierarchy. The bottom of the pile are the male hyenas. So any male hyena is submissive to any female, regardless of her rank. And it's quite brutally enforced at times. Brian and myself had I don't quite know how to describe it. I wouldn't call it an emotional sighting, but I suppose it was an emotional sighting in a way. It was a very intense sighting that we had, where Gwen was being, for whatever reason, disciplined, beaten up, bullied. You can use whatever word you want. I mean, it's part of the natural hierarchy of the clan. But Pretty and Madam were basically pulling one of her ears off, biting her. There was blood everywhere. She was desperately trying to get away from them. The sub-adults all watching, some of the high-ranking sub-adults looking like they wanted to participate, to the point that they came behind us and tried to climb underneath the vehicle. It's not the first time we've had a hyena try to climb underneath vehicles either. I know that Scott had it with the wild dogs chasing the hyenas, so they do utilize us try to utilize us as a refuge. I had to move us because it was just too dangerous to have hyenas fighting right next to us. But it is brutally enforced, and then afterwards was really fascinating to watch her. She came and stood next to us. It was terrible. She came and stood and looked at us, stared up at us, and she was whooping, doing that contact call, obviously to sort of try and reinforce that she's a member of this clan. Please don't, really hurt her. It was constantly woo, woo, woo. It was really quite hard to watch, actually, but it did give us a really good idea as to where the different members slot in. As for this lot, well, it remains to be seen. I suspect they'll be higher ranking than Gwen, but I don't know. If she is the daughter of Corky, they'll definitely be high ranking. One of the other things I look forward to you seeing is hyena cubs whooping. Nick, you wondering about whether Ribbon is a high ranking female? I don't know, Nick. I'm not 100% sure. I would suggest she's somewhere in the middle. I don't think she's as low as Gwen. I don't think she's as high as Madam or Pretty. I would put her somewhere in between. But I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to watch the behavior of the other hyenas. The more time we spend at the den, the better an idea we'll have as to who fits in where. I suspect she's in the middle. She's also quite young. This is her first litter. Be interesting to see how she handles that. One of my favorite questions. Corey, you want to know if a lower ranking female can ever go above her station and become a matriarch? Yep, absolutely. Here's the fascinating thing. Usually in much larger clans, but it does occur, there are certain behavioral ecologists that have spent 30 years living with hyenas, and they've written some very interesting books. There's several different ones that you could actually go and read. If you do a little bit of research, you'll find them. But they've written accounts of coups within a hyena clan. So where all of a sudden the lower ranking females have outnumbered the higher ranking females and have obviously gone through a slightly better period of time. Maybe they just got luckier with food, and they will then actually rise up and there'll be a coup. Or they'll split away. So this is quite a small hyena clan. In certain areas of Africa, you can get hyena clans that have 50 hyenas, potentially even more. And there might be a split where one family of females moves away and sets up shop elsewhere and separates from the clan. At which point the most dominant female in that group will become the new matriarch. So we talk about hyenas as having this very closely controlled hierarchy system, but again, they're wild animals. They do strange things, just like our various leopards do odd and unexpected things every now and again. This cub is happy as can be. It's got mom all to itself. Siblings gone to bed, and this is just the best morning ever.